Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint Pendulum Friday. Thank you very, very much for being here. This is for August 15th. Alrighty. So here we go. Um, Not a lot of questions this week, but some really interesting ones. For those of you who watched the video that I put out on Wednesday called Calling All Light Workers. Thank you very much for the lovely comment. I'm glad that you're finding that supportive. And again, I will repeat for new viewers, if you're interested in sort of um, information or readings on sort of the more spiritual side of life as opposed to political, you go to Soulprint Insights, that YouTube channel, and there is a link at the bottom of the description box below. You're going to find all kinds of really interesting things in there that have already been recorded and published. But if you're new to the channel, you might find a few things that you find interesting. Okay, so let me just get myself positioned here. For anybody who is new here, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the Soulprint experience. Um, just so you know, when the pendulum goes side to side like that, it means that it is ready to talk, ready to communicate, and I am protected. Show me yes. Goes back and forth. Show me no. And round and round. And you will notice that this pendulum reacts and responds very, very quickly. Okay, here we the first question. I don't even know what I can do with this. The question was, did Trump ever touch his daughter Ivanka inappropriately? There is no way for me to safely answer that question without pendulum or no, without sort of potentially getting myself sued. So I'm not going to do that. But energetically, what I can tell you is that she has never been particularly comfortable with the way her dad has sort of sexualized her. He makes, and you can see it on interviews that they've done where he's, oh, I had to date her. She's pretty hot. You can just see her reaction like she laughs and she sort of smiles, but it's like you can tell it's a nervous response. It is an uncomfortable response. So I don't know what did or did not go on, and I'm not going behind closed doors there. But I can tell you that it was not a comfortable and is not and has not been a comfortable experience for her. And honestly, every time he says something like that, everybody else in the world, except perhaps, I don't know, some pedophiles out there, I don't know, go, that's good. But he doesn't seem to stop him because he just does his thing. All right, here we go. Is something likely to happen to Vance to vacate the office if vice president prematurely? So I don't know if you guys know, but he was in England and on a vacation, except he held some sort of a business meeting, and so that sort of flies in the face if this is a vacation. But apparently, he was fishing with his kids illegally. So there you have it, right? Okay. Is something likely to happen to cause Vance to vacate the office of vice president prematurely given the current energies? No. Will Trump still be in office for more than a few? Oh, wait a minute. Will Trump still be in office for a few more minutes after Vance leaves office? Okay, that's not. Um, Let me reverse that and say, um, so right now it doesn't look like he's leaving. Um, Now, the more concern comes from if they go forward and they enact the 25th Amendment, right? So let's focus on that a little bit. Is Vance in physical danger or likely to be in physical danger within the next year or two? Whoa, that's like a really, really strong yes. Oh my goodness. Um, So, as we know, the vice president gets inaugurated prior to um, the president. I'm just going to read this because I'm getting it. Um, In a normal inauguration, the incoming vice president always takes the oath of office before the incoming president. So outgoing VPs ordinarily leave office a few minutes before the outgoing president. Now, this is really the important focus of the question. The 25th Amendment requires the VP to take a very active role in the removal of a president. Honestly, it's too bad Pence didn't do the right thing. I'm just saying. Because the people who were in office in those positions then, because they're all like the secretaries of this and the secretary of that, at least had slightly more respect for their offices and the traditions and the rules than the current crop of secretaries. So if he takes an active role in the removal of a president, the minute someone like Trump knows or suspects that that process has begun or is imminent, the vice president may suddenly find himself in danger. Because there was no constitutional way for the president to fire the vice president. So let's ask this, because we've already determined that there's some danger there for him. So let's ask this. Is Vance and the various secretaries likely to move forward or become more serious about activating the 25th Amendment? That's a yes. And it's a strong yes. Let's push. Is that going to happen before the end of the year 2026? And that's a yes. Now, if I understand it correctly, sort of one of the secondary catches is that when that happens, the president there's a period of time. Um, I don't know how long it is, a week, a month, something like that, but they have a period of time where they can still return to the office um, if they can prove that whatever got them removed from the office is no longer a concern. This happens, we know this happens sort of on a routine basis if the president is undergoing any sort of procedure that's going to, put him under anesthetic. So there is that sort of return to work sort of deal. And for me personally, the question would be, does he have enough um clout with the doctors for them to push back against and say, no, whatever you're accusing him of, he's perfectly healthy and he's perfectly fine. Because let's face it, so far all the doctors have gone on and on about what amazing health he's in, which is just so bogus. It's not like even funny. Um, so there you have that. Let's sort of see if that happens. Is President Xi Jinping running China? I don't know who else would be, but is he running China? That's a yes. If I'm just going to preface this a little bit. If Abbott gets away with the redistricting. And now, the last I heard was they didn't end up getting a quorum. And so that vote was not able to take place. Now, I don't know if they can revisit it or whatever, but as of right now, on Thursday afternoon, the vote did not go through because they did not have that quorum. Um, but that to redistrict, right? But if that happened, Jasmine Smith would basically, her writing would be separated. It would sort of vanish. And don't kid yourself. I think that's a big part of, what they're trying to do. They want to shut her down. And a really good way to do that is just make her, seat vanish. So the question then is, will Jasmine Crockett, is she planning on running against Ted Cruz for the Senate seat? That's a yes. Even if the redistricting doesn't happen, is she planning on running for Ted Cruz's seat? And that is a yes. Does she have a better than 70% chance of winning? It's a yes. Will Ghislaine Maxwell be granted work release from the low security prison she was just transferred to? Apparently, that prison had to implement all kinds of additional security and etc. because she shouldn't be there, right? And apparently, it was not only security, I guess, for like the prison, but I understand it was also security for the staff. So that's like really interesting. Will Maxwell be granted work release? Let's narrow this a bit. Within the next 6 months. You see, it's going back and forth saying yes, and then it's going round and round saying no. I feel sort of maybe like that's a maybe. Um, I know that we've asked this question before and gotten an answer. I want to re-ask it. Is Trump going to issue a pardon to her, creating another distraction? Would that be his motivation? So, is he thinking about issuing a pardon to create a distraction? Okay, yes. As of right now, energetically, is he likely to do that? Okay, it's a really small no. What I'm hearing is that he is being told that the whole Epstein thing remains, like a wildfire. It's completely out of control. And him doing something like that is likely to add like fuel to the fire. So um it feels sort of like he's, for right now anyways, energetically, it feels sort of like he's basically been told to sort of let sleeping dogs lie. Interesting phraseology there that I chose. Um but we shall, see how this unfolds. Hunter Biden said that Melania was introduced to Trump by Epstein. First Lady Melania Trump has threatened to sue him for $1 billion. Will she move forward with her lawsuit? As of right now, no. Are, okay, the next question is, will Biden apologize? And that's a no. Are there people available somewhere who would be able to confirm or deny the truth of that statement. Yes. Will the Epstein files be released by some individual or group outside of the USA? Okay, right now that's a no. Was 45 ever a business partner of Epstein's? Okay, that's a no. Did they have a joint offshore bank account? And that is also a no. You have to think that neither one would trust the other one um, to do that. Frankly, it'd be a very foolish thing to do. Will Governor will Trump, Governor Greg Abbott, the FBI get away with this racial gerrymandering? Okay, right now that's a no. Are there going to be any arrests? Are there going to be arrests against people who left the state so there would not be a quorum? That's a yes. Is that going to actually go anywhere? Is it going to have legs? Is that something that's going to actually go forward? No. If those um, Democratic members of, I don't even know what that is, the Texas Assembly, whatever that's called, um, should there be a push against them, will some of the people of Texas stand up and make their voices known that they do not approve? Yes. Okay, is Putin going to meet Trump in Alaska on Friday? He did not. As of Thursday afternoon. So apparently, that Whitlock guy, he was the guy, that Trump's Whitlock guy. He was the guy who was, I guess, in conversations or trying to set this thing up. First of all, he has not 1 ounce of negotiating experience. Um, and they're now saying, well, he misunderstood. So that whole thing was canceled. Trump and people are pulling back and saying, "Oh, they're just pulling back and they're changing their story." Um, Apparently, he kept saying that the meeting was in Russia. Was he confused? He's always confused. Let's just ask. Was Trump confused when he kept referring to the meeting that was taking place or supposed to take place in Alaska? Was he confused about calling that Russia, about the place of the meeting being Russia? Was he confused? Yes. In Trump's head, are the words Putin and Russia sort of interchangeable? Hmm. Yeah. Um, Okay, are they really going to swap territories? I wouldn't believe anything that anybody heard about what may or may not have been on the agenda for the meeting that didn't happen. But follow-up question is this: will Zelensky prevail to push back Putin behind its own Russian border? Right now, that's a yes. Um, for those of you who, hold I have to find her name real fast. Um, and I know that other people have recommended her. Here she is. Heather Cox Richardson. Um, she is a historian and she gives remarkable sort of political messages. I think she puts them out like every day or something like that. But she's very sort of wise about what she says. And one of the things that she pointed out in one of her most recent videos was there was a time that, and certainly 45 believed that whatever they were doing, the USA was doing with regards to Ukraine, Russia, that the world would just comply and fall into place. And what's happening is that the world is disregarding what Trump is doing and saying. And yeah, the US supplies a lot of money and product to Ukraine to help them in this war. But I think what you're going to find is that, and it's already started to happen, is other nations have sort of expanded what they are doing and contributing. So they're not complying. They're not listening to what Trump wants, and frankly, they don't appear to be listening to what Putin wants. So there's that. But if you haven't checked out this lady, she is well worth checking out. She just has a really clear sort of way of no nonsense way of speaking. She doesn't get all dramatic and all over the place. She just very calmly says, you know, this is what's going on. Look, pay attention to this. This is what's happened. Really interesting. Okay. Will DC be okay during the National Guard takeover of the police? That's okay. Um, I'm wondering, and I don't know the answer. In fact, I'm going to pause this and find out the answer before I go forward. So I'll be right back. Okay. Um, Here we are right now. It is 5 o'clock on Thursday and 15 minutes ago. Um, New York Times said this. Um, Authorities were conducting sweeps of the capital's dozens of homeless encampments Thursday evening. City officials and the advocates for the homeless said all 800 National Guard troops that President Trump activated as part of his takeover of the policing the nation's capital have now been mobilized. The Pentagon said shifts of 100 to 200 unarmed troops will help local and federal law enforcement officers with duties including community safety patrols and the of beautification, a Pentagon spokeswoman said. Um, okay, so interesting that they are unarmed, and this crime wave, when uh, crime was down something like 30% or something. It's huge. But anyways, the crime wave appears to be homelessness. Um, and it feels as if, again, these are distractions, right? I mean, and honestly, I don't know that there's a lot of rhyme nor reason for what he does, but let's see. Okay, so as of right now, DC is going to be okay. Was there another reason that Trump sent the National Guard to DC? Yes, and it was distraction. And And they're saying, and it was also to diminish the mayor, um, I guess, of Washington, because if I'm not mistaken, she's black, and of course, so that means she's a target, right? Um, was the National Guard sent in as extra protection for Trump? No. Was the National Guard sent in to aggravate or humiliate Democratic members of Congress? And that's a no. Is is 45 sort of hoping, this is my question, hoping that there are, protests or something like that, which he can then turn into an issue, as he did um, oh my God, the protests that happened over the gentleman who was murdered by the cops because they were standing on his neck. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. Um, so is he looking to stir up trouble so that he can then um, try to grab more power? Yeah. Okay. So there's like a backup plan, right? There always is with him. Democratic cities with black mayors need to be worried about being occupied by the National Guard on Trump's orders. Okay, right now, that's a no. I don't know if you saw, but a response to what's going on in Texas, Gavin Newsome literally came out and said, if you go ahead with that, we will redistrict California in such a way that there will never be a hope in hell of a Republican presidency win. And you know what? That may be a really smart thing for some of these bigger states to consider doing. You know, Democrats are, I mean, Gavin Newsom seems to be one of the few people who understands that this is um, a knife fight, right? He understands that you have to play the same game that they play because otherwise they end up with more power, I guess. Um, will Hurricane Erin hit Central Florida? I know nothing about Hurricane Erin. I don't know where she is. I don't know what's going on there. So we'll just have to trust that the pendulum does. Okay, and pendulum unfortunately is saying yes. Is it going to cause significant um, damage or um, destruction, harm, or harm? That to know what I'm getting is that it's going to weaken. Um, as of right now, what I'm being told, and again, I wasn't even aware there was a Hurricane Erin out there, but what I'm being told is that it's going to make landfall, but not as a hurricane. Let's hope I'm hearing that correctly, and let's hope that's accurate. Will there be a food shortage in the U.S.? Yes, yep, there will. I'm sorry, but you have a situation where um, the games that 45 has played has created a lot of issues, like a lot of issues. And I think the thing on top of everything else that's really concerning is that the inspectors, that agency, I believe, has been diminished, not completely cut out. I could be wrong about that, but it has definitely been diminished. And so you don't have even the safeguards in place. Will Trump admit that the starvation of poor people was his plan? Will he ever admit that? No. My question is part of the Heritage Fund's strategy to create an America really with only two classes, the very wealthy and the very poor. Is that part of what they're aiming for? Yes. Is this a result of the fact that they feel that middle class, which is the largest, I believe, percentage of people in the United States, do they believe that the middle class now has too much power? Um, yes. Yeah, that's a word I want to use. Shameful and disgusting. I think that's what I'm going to go with. All right. Thank you for being here. Okay, so the weekend, what are you going to do? You got to do something nice for yourself and someone else. Enjoy the weekend. I hope you have a really, really good one. I will look forward to seeing you here next week. And we'll be focusing on political readings next week for both Monday and Wednesday. Alrighty. Until next time, take care and be well. Bye for now.